Understand something. Plain and simple. To me, Abigail was a delicious poison. An intoxicating, overwhelming poison. Yowie wowie!
We're here. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Abby's Window. And yeah, we got a lot to talk about. It's spicy this week. So thank you all for joining us. And we're joined by Dom this evening. What's up, Dom? How are you?
Yeah. Good to see you guys. Yeah, I'm good. It's good to be back. I'm in my pajamas. It's like just past 11 o'clock p.m. So I thought it was pajama time. So yeah,
go.
it's all good. I'm feeling.
We should have like a pajama stream.
Yeah. I feel like a pajama stream would be really
do
cool.
that next week. Just have a pajama stream.
A pajama stream. All right.
I reckon that'd be pretty good fun. I'd like to see Jeff's pajamas for sure.
My Ninja Turtle jammies.
Oh, dude, no, Ray, have you seriously got Ninja Turtle pajamas? Oh, you ruined it, man. You've ruined my illusion. I was like, I'd love to have seen that. That would have been great. That would have been amazing.
No, man.
You've still got time to get some for next week.
I do. I
me.
have time. So I might surprise everyone and have some Ninja Turtle PJs. So here we go. And then, as always, we are joined by Abby, Jodie Gilly. Jodie, how are you this week?
I got some good rest. I worked last night, so I came home and went to bed and woke up like an hour ago. So
there you go.
I got some good sleep.
That's good. That's good. Sleep is always good. Rest is always good. So again, welcome everyone. I don't want to read through everyone's names, not because I don't want to, but because it would take me a while. So I'll just say welcome to everyone. Glad you're here. And yeah, well,
you guys are all awesome.
Yes, you're all awesome. So yeah, let's get started. I know Jodie has some things to go over in Caleb's corner, so let's go there.
Ooh, exciting.
So yeah, these are some more pictures from the Kiss Cruise that were posted by Josh Mason, his drummer. And I messaged him and asked for permission to share these, and he said absolutely. So yeah, just some pictures from the Kiss Cruise. It looks like they had a big old crowd, and I'm sure Caleb really loved that. He really plays off the crowd. The more energetic the crowd is, the more into it he gets. So he looks like a grand old time there. And when he posted about it, he said that he had a blast. So yeah, he sets off on the Trans-Siberian Orchestra tour tomorrow. They'll be in Green Bay. And the next show after that is in Fort Wayne, Indiana on Friday, which I will be at. I have front row tickets. Don't ask me how I scored those. But yeah, I have front row tickets right in the middle. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. And right after the show, I will be driving to Toledo, spending the night in Toledo, because on the 19th, on Saturday, I will be seeing one Mr. Bray Wyatt. So it's going to be quite the weekend.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good segue, because it seems like we've been talking about that for a while.
Yeah.
And now it's here. And yeah, I know we have some people in the chat that are going. So that's awesome that you guys get to see him this weekend. That's great.
Well, I haven't seen him in person since March.
Yeah.
So back in Albany. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
That's awesome. That's
I
awesome.
might get a little teary-eyed because I got a little teary-eyed yesterday when I was thinking more about it. And I was like, shoot, I don't want to cry. I don't know.
It's
I'm
okay to
just
cry.
Yeah,
excited.
exactly.
I
It's
can
it's okay to cry. You know,
happy.
you got the emotion out there. You know, it's good.
It's okay to cry. It's
Yeah.
Well, you know, we have a good bond. You
yeah.
know, I'm very proud to be able to call him a friend, and I haven't seen my friend since March. So
Yeah. Well, let's talk about someone who has seen your friend. Because we got a little interruption on Friday night when LA Knight was doing a backstage promo.
Indeed. Ah, it was brilliant.
And you know, we kept getting these different images in the TV behind him. You see these eyes there, this is I love this shot.
That's a great shot.
I,
Yeah.
I love this shot.
thank you.
Uh, yeah, and then we get Bray out here, and these two guys, they're meeting, right? So Bray's kind of introducing himself, and does anyone else want to read what Bray said, or would you like me to?
I love your voice when you do it, man. So which sounds weird. I'm not like into it sexually. It's just a nice voice. You just have a good voice for it. So I'll read it, but it won't sound as good in my northern.
Nice
It won't sound as
announcer
well,
voice.
Yeah, I'll do LA Knights one, if you want.
Okay.
But this is yeah. You go for this one.
All right. So Bray says, "Hey man, I know we haven't met, but my name is Bray.
Oh,
So now we can be
that's
friends,
doing
right?
it for me. That's doing it for me.
That's doing
Carry
it
on.
for me. Okay.
Carry on.
I think I understand you better than you think I do. I can see all that anger and rage brewing inside you. Me too, man." And I love that laugh that he does after that. My
I
whole life
know.
people have been telling me my rage was going to make a monster out of me. The thing is, I've been for the longest time pretending that I'm not proud of the things that I do, but I just don't know how true that is anymore because I know what it takes to get respect, man. And I'm asking you, how far are you willing to go?
Hang on. I'm not done yet. I'm go turn the screen off. I'm joking. It's fine. Okay, it's all right. Okay, it's all right. I'm joking, or am I? That was a beautiful promo. Beautiful promo, man. Just what I mean. It's not what everybody expected, is it? It's when we got LA Knight and Bray Wyatt. It is none of us could have predicted this. Like, we were all thinking, your Roman Reigns, your Andy Orton's, people he's had feuds with. LA Knight was the furthest person you could have probably put him with. And again, they're polar opposites in terms of their. You could draw a comparison to their mic work, but because they're both that good. But yeah, this is different, man. When I first watched it on the SmackDown live stream we did on Gimme a Whole Year, I was like, what are they doing here? I was properly cynical. And I was like, what are they doing here? Why haven't they put him with, why haven't they put him with Roman? Why haven't they put him with anybody else? And then as the week has gone on, I've got more and more into it as I've watched it back. Not quite as much as I was into you reading that promo there, but still.
Oh, you kill me. I appreciate the compliment. I will take the compliments on my radio voice.
It's a beautiful radio voice, man.
Beautiful voice.
I appreciate that. Jodie, what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, it was definitely someone that none of us were expecting. And I just honestly, I don't want to say I forgot almost everything else that was said but I kind of did, just because that moment where LA Knight really pissed Bray off, I could not stop laughing. Like, that was it for me. I was just like, oh my gosh. And every time I watch it, that part just really makes me laugh. But
Well, you're talking about this
it was
part.
another great.
You're talking about that look there, right?
Yeah. All right. Knight tells him to shove his puppets wherever it gives him pleasure.
Yeah. Well, this was great, man. I love this so much. I love this so much. Yeah, just like just giving it back to Bray. How far I'm willing to go ain't none of your damn business. But how far you're willing to go should be back to your little romper room, play with your little puppets, stick them anywhere that gives you pleasure. It's okay with me. But at the end of the day, if nobody asked you, whose game is it? It's LA Knight's game. And I'm just going to be like, yeah, because I love that bit. I love when he's like, yeah. So I'm going to do that. But yeah, that's great. Like to me, LA Knight came across very well here. He almost outshone Bray, I think, a little bit. I'm not sure I could say that on this podcast, but I really liked LA Knight's comedy here and what he did. I think it made Bray look good, and I also think, crucially, LA Knight wasn't made to look weak here as well, because people assume, and I think it's safe to assume if they have a match, Bray's going to win. But the crucial thing is LA Knight is a emerging star on SmackDown, revamped after the group that shall not be named, Maximum Male Models, Triple M. We don't talk about that. But he has been revamped and repackaged. The crucial thing is if he loses, and in promos, he cannot be made to look like just some other guy. He is a star. LA Knight is a star,
Yeah, I mean, and I'll say this before I throw it over to. Oh, go ahead, Jody. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think to Dom's point, it's really good to build someone up strong that looks formidable, opposite of Bray, because you don't want it to be the type of feud or program where it's like, okay, I know obviously what the outcome of this is going to be. This feels a little bit different, especially to start off, because it's so out of left field. And I think having LA Knight, who, I'll say this about the man, he is criminally underrated on the mic and in the ring. Just severely underrated. I think building him up like this, opposite of Bray, is just going to make this first encounter so beautiful. But Jody, what are your thoughts on what LA Knight said and Bray's reaction?
I think they're toe to toe here on promo work. I think they both did an amazing job. I think they kind of built each other up, and they both looked very strong. And I think they complement each other really well. And like I just could not stop laughing at that. Like I just died laughing.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And I love that. I love that Bray's initial reaction is just that really angry, like he's letting the dark side of himself take over for that. Like he's deeply offended by what he just said. Like the puppets are his family, it was like he just insulted his family.
Yeah.
Which might tie into Audi a little bit.
Yeah.
Represents his family. LA Knight just disrespected his family.
Yeah, my only concern, guys, is that Bray doesn't look like a face here at all. Like, he's supposed to be like the top baby face on SmackDown. He's not looking like a face at all. To me, LA Knight is being positioned as the face in this feud because Bray attacked him. So, and Bray, I know LA Knight is not a face and he is not being positioned as such, but to me, there's a little bit of blurred lines here as to who's the good guy and who's the bad guy,
Yeah, I think
like your classic anti-hero.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, but I think that with Bray, he doesn't have to be in one of those lanes. I think for this character, because he takes us on a ride. it's honestly, it's an emotional roller coaster in ways where he takes us on this ride, on this journey with these different iterations of the character. Like we've seen this person backstage, we've seen this person out in front of the fans, and it's, he's taking us on this ride. So I don't think you can fit him into a box, and I actually like that about this booking.
Yeah.
Because it's not so obvious that he's a face. It's like, what would you do as a person in the real world? How would you handle different people? You're going to come up against good people. You're going to come up against bad people. You don't have to choose either way. You just choose your truth, kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, I understand that. I'd be curious to know what Uncle Howdy's reasoning is, because it certainly implied that Uncle Howdy was the one manipulating Bray to this interaction, because he was the one that was flicking up on the screen. I'd be interested to know if there's any if there is any kind of evolution of the story, like he's targeting people that he thinks are pretending to be something they're not, which is interesting. I mean, that would be a bit of an interesting sort of side to this story, because obviously Uncle Howdy is very much like, you're pretending to be someone you're not, Bray, and I wonder if, because there was a little bit of that with LA Knight, maybe Bray's mission on behalf of Uncle Howdy is to sort of out LA Knight as the faker that I mean, he's obviously, he's a very confident person, but is he all, is that really him, or is that, just a bit of pomp, you know what I mean? Is it a bit, is it just, what's the phrase where the bird that does the I know this is really obvious, the bird that does the feathers, the peacock. Peacocking. There you go, peacocking. Yeah, is LA Knight peacocking, and is that his thing that he does? But he's not really like that, and maybe it's a bit of exposition there.
Is he wearing a mask? Is LA Knight wearing a mask?
Did anyone think that Bray was trying to recruit him at first?
Yeah.
It felt that way.
It did.
It did. Like at first he was talking to him and he's like, my name's Bray. We can be friends now, right? Trying to recruit him into the fold, and then it just went horribly bad.
Right. I mean, he even like identifies with them, saying, I see all that rage in you. Me too. Like I see it. I have it too. It's almost kind of like an olive branch. He's trying to reach out to him. Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, Jodie, what are your thoughts on the whole, face heel thing that Don brought up? I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Bray's always a tweener. I don't think he ever, kind of like you said, I don't think he ever falls into one specific category. I think a lot of it depends on who he's going against. If you have him going against a real base, then he's naturally going to be the heel. I think he's just always blurred that line. And because he doesn't really to fit into one category.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. So I mean, I guess I want to go up to this this question, because this kind of sparks the next direction that I kind of wanted to take us. Do we think we will get a Bray Wyatt versus LA Knight match at Survivor Series, or is it too early for Bray's first match? Thank you, Ethan Hill, for that.
Yeah, great question, Ethan. Yeah. I don't know what you guys think, but I think the people are clamoring for a Bray match. I think people are starting to kind of not tire. I think that might be the wrong word, but people are starting to get restless for a Bray match. Obviously, we've had these promos for a number of weeks now. We would be fine. I imagine, the Insiders team would be fine, but we're not booking WWE. We don't have tickets to sell, although I'm sure if we did, I'm sure you'd all show up. So thank you. But yeah, I think from a business standpoint, it makes sense to have Bray at Survivor Series fighting in a match It's still, I think it's still considered a big four, isn't it? Is Survivor Series still one of the
I
big
believe
four?
so. Yeah.
So I would say it would make
Mhm.
sense. You know, I've heard a lot of chatter online about people sort of going, oh, well, this is going to be, you know, next to the War Games matches, this is going to be boring as hell, Bray Wyatt and LA Knight. And I just think, man, this is their you know, it's their time to prove, you know, everybody wrong. I think these guys are very creative. I think they're going to pull something really interesting together. And I think Survivor Series is the perfect time to do it.
Jodie, what do you think?
Yeah. I think it's highly possible that we get a match at Survivor Series. If not, definitely some bigger, more nasty interaction. But I could definitely see something happen at Survivor Series for sure.
Yeah.
It's only a couple, 2 weeks away?
Yeah.
Next weekend?
Next weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, next weekend. So when we do see him back,
So there's 2 SmackDowns. Yeah, so there's 2 SmackDowns before that.
Yeah, so a chance
They
for
got
2
time to
more
build it up.
interactions. Yeah. Eric's asking, so let's project that he is getting into the ring at Survivor Series, or you know, whenever he gets into the ring. Eric is asking, do y'all think he'll have a new finisher?
That's another great question, Eric. Yeah.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that, man. It's interesting because I think he'll use everything he's used before. Again, if we're going for the Mick Foley comparison, which I think is a good one to do, you know, Dude Love used to use the Mandible Claw. Cactus Jack and Mankind both used the double arm DDT, and the pulling pile driver was Cactus. So Cactus Jack had the pulling pile driver. Dude Love had the DDT, and Mankind had the Mandible Claw. They used them all, and I think that I would use all. I would use the Mandible Claw. I would use Sister Abigail, and maybe something else. Yeah, but I would feature them in, you know, I would feature all 3 moves, maybe at different times, maybe at a desperate time he breaks out the Mandible Claw. Maybe he teases us with a Sister Abigail, but it gets reversed, and then we get a new finisher. You know what I mean? So I think it's interesting. I don't think he needs to. I think Sister Abigail and the Mandible Claw are, of course, iconic finishers in their own right. Mick Foley made the Mandible Claw such, and I believe Bray has made the Sister Abigail a now iconic finisher. I think he doesn't need to have a new finisher, but it'd be interesting if he did. Yeah.
Jodie, what do you think about the possibility of him having like different move sets for different characters? I mean, different iterations of the character.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking along the lines of, with the same thing, like the 3 faces of Foley. Like, he's got the Mandible Claw, he's got the Sister Abigail. I think a lot of it might depend on who's in control of him. Maybe Uncle Howdy has a particular. Deanna just kind of said it. What if he uses his grandpa's finisher?
Yeah.
You know, I think that's very possible. Like, with each, if you want to call them demon that's after him, or part of the storyline, whether it's Uncle Howdy or Uncle Harper or the Fiend or whoever's, I think we might get a different move finisher based on who's in control.
Interesting. Yeah,
because we've seen, I mean, you would go down that road of, we've seen Wyndham in the ring. Does Wyndham have his own moveset?
That'd be fascinating, actually. Yeah, if he had his own. Yeah, because the Fiend has had the Mandible Claw, Bray'S had the Sister Abigail, and I guess, yeah, if we're getting Wyndham, and if this is more Wyndham than any of those personalities, then yeah, a new finisher makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a ton of sense.
From everybody else.
You broke up a little bit there, Jodie.
Yeah, I think you said it separates him from everybody else. Was all right with that?
Yeah, it separates Wyndham from everybody else.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think that's a great thought process there, and it, like you said, it differentiates him, each character from each one. There, you're getting something unique. I mean, you're not only getting a different personality, but you're getting a different kind of physicality from each one, which is kind of a brilliant part of character work on his part, if that's the direction that he goes in. So I've got to ask, what are your expectations of a potential feud with these two guys? Like what do you think could come of this? Where do you think they're gonna go with this? And I want to get the feedback of the chat as well. Jody, I'll start with you this time. Where do you think this goes? Where does this lead to?
I kind of like the idea of Bray exposing him for what he really is. I don't think this is a feud that's going to last incredibly long. I think it's more of a, I'm going to expose you and then I'm going to move on and do it to somebody else. So I think we get a match. Maybe LA Knight changes a little, kind of like what the Fiend used to do to people. And yeah, I think that might be the trend for a little while, is him exposing people. Which I like that.
Yeah. It really begs to that question. Is this character about removing people's mask because he feels like he has?
Interesting. Yeah, that, like I say, that was to my point earlier. Like, it's only come to me by doing this show and hanging out with you guys that could be a thing. To my point earlier, like the whole idea of taking off other people's masks. And I think maybe what's being teased eventually down the line, whether it's a long-time thing or a short-term thing, is the return of the Fiend, and maybe the Fiend is wearing a Bray mask or something like that. That may be a little bit overcomplicated, but I'd quite like to see the sort of the tease maybe that we'll get a return of the Fiend, and the Fiend is fighting to be the dominant personality, a bit like did anybody see? Well, I think we've talked about it before. Split.
Yes.
Film. So there's the multiple, very well done, very well done, that film. Multiple personalities fighting to be on the surface, to be the dominant personality, and of course, I think it was also played out in Doom Patrol. If anybody's seen that series on, it's a DC show and it's also a comic book. But there is a character there who has like multiple different personalities, and they have a. It's worth looking into if anybody's into comic books and DC. It's Doom Patrol, and there's a character in that who has multiple personalities, and they have like a hierarchy, and one goes up to the surface and is the front-facing personality, and the others pop up as needed. And I quite like. I'm saying that could be quite complicated to do on WWE television, but the idea may be that again we see the Fiend pop up at some point. We see Wyndham, the leading personality, but we see cult leader Bray pop up. You know what I mean? And I'd quite like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
mean, we've kind of seen him cycle through a couple of those, like in the ring and in person. At first I feel like he started out as, Wyndham, and very quickly went to darker, character. We've seen him do Wyndham in the ring and then get a little bit more angry backstage, and then we've seen Uncle Howdy. So it would be complicated, but if anybody pull that off, it's Bray.
Absolutely. He can pull it off. I mean, I want to ask this question, and this is out of respect, but the character work that he's doing, is it reminiscent of Mick Foley? And do you kind of put him on that level just yet in terms of character work?
I mean, Mick Foley's my favorite wrestler of all time. Bray's my favorite wrestler currently. I think you can't put him on Foley's level yet. Give him 10 years. and I think because I think in 10 years Bray will be a Hall of Famer, you know. And I think we will be hearing him in the same breath as Mick Foley. However, Mick Foley had 15 years, didn't he? 15 beyond that, actually, because he went to TNA and did that stuff. So nearly 20 years in a career. And I know Bray has had a long time, but it's about half, isn't it? It's about half that. So I think 10 years down the line, yes, absolutely. If things go the way they're going and we see Bray maintain, whether he has a title or not, maintain a top standing on the card, you know, because we have it could happen. I don't want to be that guy, but people could sour on the Wyatt storyline, the character, and he could, people could sour on it, but I think Bray will be on that level, but just I wouldn't say he's on there yet personally, but that's just because I'm putting up two personalities, both of them that I love very much. But Mick is, Mick was the kind of guy that even though he was the outsider, he appealed to the everyman, and Bray hasn't been able to do that yet, I would argue. When Mankind won the title against The Rock, in his tattered in his tattered shirt and tie, and he was let down by Vince McMahon, his boss, and cast aside. We could relate to Mick Foley because he was the everyman. He'd been maybe mistreated by his boss. He'd been let down because he didn't look good. He didn't look normal, and that's the difference I think between what Bray is now and what Mick Foley was able to do. Because Mick Foley was able to transcend from the outcast to a mainstream audience because people related to him. People believed through Mick Foley that they could do things that they were told they couldn't do. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And,
that makes sense.
And we're on the way to that with Bray, but I don't think we're on it yet.
Well, let me ask this question because I've seen a couple people say this in the comments, and I want to get Jodie's reaction first, and then we'll toss it back over to you, Dom. But do you think this generation's version of that is eventually Bray taking the title from Roman? Because he's essentially telling the same story that he's talking about connecting with the people. He's talking about how he's had to overcome these things. He's battling these demons, these masks, and he's trying to tell his story the way he wants to tell it and write it the way he wants to. So does that give him that same type of moment in this generation? And I'll go to Jodie first.
So I definitely think that's possible. I think he has drawn a lot of inspiration from other wrestlers, including Mick Foley. I'm sure he's gathered information and driven inspiration from a lot of people in creating these characters. But I think the character work that he's doing now, I think will appeal to the masses a little bit more. Obviously, cult leader Bray, he just had that cult following. But I think now doing this is me being genuine me and showing that he is fighting these demons and he's struggling with it. And I think that's the part that's going to appeal to the masses. A lot of people go through that they're battling their own demons, that they have trouble with anger or, drug addiction or anything like that. So I think a lot of people will relate to that and connect to it. And I think that's going to be his big selling point is, that he's just a normal person like everybody else. And I think that's going to appeal to a lot of people, maybe bring in some more of like your regular everyday casual watcher. And you're like, oh, I can relate to that. I've been through that before. Like, I'm sure most people in our chat have been through, some kind of depression or anger issue or something like that. I mean, everybody's been through something. I think he is 99.9% in creative control of where this is going to go. I think Triple H is just kind of letting it wants to do for the part, directions here and there, trying to, rein him in a little. Like you said, his mind is a tornado. So, I think this is his best character work so far. Obviously, I love Cult Leader Bray. That was the version of him I fell in love with because it was the first one I ever saw. Funhouse Bray, and I loved The Fiend. But this character work and getting to see little pieces of the person that I know and the person that he really is, it just makes you love him even more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very interesting, Jeff, and this is what I love about coming on here and talking to you guys and talking to the chat is I never thought about the similarities between between Mick Foley and The Rock's feud, and the potential of what we could get with Roman and Bray. That's massive, and I never thought about it until just now. Imagine if we do get this raw, honest Bray Wyatt conquering his demons. He's been fired, he's come back, he's conquered his demons, and then he wins the big one. And the big one, there's nobody bigger than Roman Reigns right now, and there was nobody bigger than The Rock back then. For the guy and the guy that shouldn't do it. The guy that doesn't look like. He doesn't look like doesn't look like Roman Reigns. He doesn't look like The Rock, but if he can get that win, and you're right, there's a huge chance that the people are going to, lose their minds and fall in love with that underdog, the underdog story. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I hesitate to use the word underdog for Bray because I feel like we've but I suppose maybe everyone's an underdog with Roman these days,
Right?
So maybe it would still be an underdog story. The guy that shouldn't be world champion is going to be and we're talking about Bray here.
Yeah.
Gets that win and people go nuts for it. I would love that. And I only just thought about because that is my moment, my favorite moment of all time in wrestling is Mick Foley winning that title on that Raw.
Yeah.
I think it was the WCW WWE rating switch because people knew it was going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah, but people loved it. All-time favorite moment. I mean, they could easily recreate something like that nowadays, and with Roman and Bray. The only other person you would put in there, which I guess could be equally, if not more likely, is Sami Zayn.
Right.
You could put him in that underdog role, and that would be more of an underdog. So I'm tempted to say that they'd be better suited to do it with Sami, because of the history with. But then Bray has massive history with Roman too. So either one, I would mark out for. If Sami did it, that would be great. But obviously, as a fan, and because we're here talking about Bray, and we are a Bray Wyatt themed show, that would be incredible to see Bray recreate the Foley moment where he wins and maybe, I mean, it'll be over the top, but didn't DX and everybody come out and lift Mick Foley on their shoulders and stuff. I don't know whether we're going to get that, but still, a beautiful, beautiful moment nonetheless.
Yeah. I think it would be tremendous.
Also think about think about Bray said about he goes where the circle takes him. Is a potential match between him and Roman recreating that circle of Foley and Rock, because Bray's obviously taken a lot of inspiration from Foley, and Rock is part of the bloodline. So that circle coming back around now.
That's a good point too. That's a really good point because of the literal bloodline with with Roman and The Rock, but there's almost like a kindred spirit between Mick Foley and Bray. So it's kind of like a connection, but on two different wavelengths. You've got the blood connection, but you have this kind of spiritual connection as someone that he looked up to.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is this
He goes
is a
where the
lot of
circle takes him.
Yeah, you know what, this chat is very fun this evening. It always is, but this evening is lots of fun.
It's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for the questions as well. It's always good. So when we can talk amongst ourselves. We love talking, don't we, about Bray, ourselves. But like, you guys in the chat, make it with the questions and stuff. It's because that's what I said. This is why I love coming on here and doing this. Is because I start thinking about stuff that I didn't even think about before I got on here. I'm like, my mind gets blown, you know what I mean? Like I'm feeling a bit cynical. Like, why are they putting him with LA Knight? And then all of a sudden I'll be like, holy monkey, he could be unmasking LA Knight metaphorically. Oh my god. Oh no. I could get all excited about Jeff's sexy radio voice, and I can like blow my mind about Bray Theory. This is just the best, man. It's the best. I love it.
Happy to oblige.
Yes.
Blowing my mind and other things. It's just great. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. It's all good.
Shane Loki saying, in my opinion, I don't think Bray's character is battling his demons. He said he's a servant now. A servant does what the master says.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Big Dan saying Mick was also good friends with Uncle Barry and his dad, not to mention Blackjack Mulligan, who worked as a road agent for WCW. Kyle saying, question, is it me or do you think Bray's target LA Knight because he reminds him of Ramblin' Rabbit? What do you guys think about that?
Ooh, maybe he's recruiting him to be Rambling Rabbit, Maybe if he like takes him, like how we never got the explanation as to why Bray was kidnapping people. Maybe he's kidnapped. Maybe he's gonna beat LA Knight and then take him backstage and stuff him into a rabbit suit, like some kind of weird horror film. Like some kind of weird horror film.
I mean, we did see. We did see it. Extreme Rules. We saw all the puppets come to life. So
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Is that what he's trying to do?
He's recruiting his puppets, whether they want to be or not. I don't go and look this up, but the other day, I mean, you're obviously going to now because I've said not. So the other day, me and Emma we were like kind of settling down for the night, and we were on like Amazon Prime, and we were scrolling through the movies. And we came up to this Kevin Smith film called Tusk, right? And I'm going
tremendous. I love that movie.
I'm going off on a tangent. It looked horrible, but I'm going off on a tangent. I'm going to bring it back. That's the ADHD, but I'm going to bring it back. The point I'm trying to make is, what if we're going full horror film and he's gonna like try and make LA Knight wear the Rambling Rabbit suit for his whole life? He's gonna sew him into it, and LA Knight's gonna become Rambling Rabbit, and then he's gonna try and do it to somebody else. Holy monkey, that could be frightening and weird. So I went off on a massive tangent, but that Tusk film looked horrible, man. Like I was like, what is that? And then I watched, because I've got like morbid curiosity. I watched like clips of it on YouTube, and I was like, what the? How does that even happen? Why would they have a human? What is it? A human
walrus.
Walrus. Why would they have a human walrus in a zoo? Why would they accept the zoo? Why would they accept the human walrus in the zoo? Oh, we bought you a walrus. Used to be a human. Like, why are you taking that walrus? Kevin Smith is a genius, but not for this film.
I absolutely love that movie. I've watched it many times. So yes, but holy, you know what, guys? If you're on Twitter, #HolyMonkey. That's a thing now. #HolyMonkey. do that, please.
I
Get
am
that
on
going.
it right now.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate the support.
Yeah, holy monkey, that's pretty funny. Yeah, I now here's a question from Jeremy, and I was going to ask this, I think, the last time, but I don't think I remember to.
I've
What
just
is
seen
the
how many. Just seen how many people have typed "holy monkey" in the comments. I didn't.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I just saw it. Just started laughing because I was like, "Oh my god, everyone's digging the holy monkey." Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
What is the Wyatt Six going to be? Is it going to be a faction or is it going to be different?
Jodie, you go first.
I think it's going to be different. I think eventually he might recruit people, kind of like what we're saying with the puppets and stuff. But I think the Wyatt Six is referring to the 6 different pieces of him. Personally. And that doesn't mean that he won't start a faction. I just think the Wyatt Six refers to the 6 pieces of him.
What do you think, Dom?
Yeah, interesting. We've talked about this before. I think it would be a severe misstep if they had, a Wyatt family type thing now or soon. I think, maybe a year down the line, 6 months down the line, Bray can lead a faction. I think we all expect, the wrestling world expects the Wyatt Six to be a faction. I think subconsciously some of us probably think the natural thing for Bray to do is to recruit and form a faction. However, I think it would be a misstep. It'll be a massive misstep because we haven't seen Bray on his own consistently and be able to tell a story on his own for a long time. So I think I would prefer the Wyatt Six to be multiple personalities, and then when he wants to have a faction where he starts sewing people into costumes for the rest of their lives,
Yes.
then that's fine. How is that even a thing? Human walruses don't get accepted in the zoos. Right. Anyway,
you gotta watch the movie, Dom. You gotta watch it.
Anyway, right.
The story makes sense at the end, I promise.
Oh god, right. Anyway, holy monkey, right. Okay. No, so I think the Wyatt Six should be a personality thing because that's interesting, that's diverse. We've not seen it before. Whereas the faction thing, I'm gonna be a bit of a dick and be like, is that lazy? Is it lazy of WWE to push that? Is it lazy of Bray to start a faction now? Do you know what I mean? Like because it should be different. It should be more. And we've never seen 6. We've seen 3 faces of Foley, but have we seen 6 Wyatt personalities in a story? No, we haven't.
Yeah. I don't want to say that it would be lazy to do that, but I think Bray needs this time on his own.
Yeah.
To dabble stuff in. And maybe, I could see him recruiting help down the line.
Yeah, I mean, there's talk of him doing, is it Bo and Rowan? Bo and Rowan, he's been pitching. I believe some of the dirt sheets have written that. I'd be fine with that. And if they're involved in this storyline, but not as a faction, I'd be well into it. If Rowan is a part, and we know that Rowan can do well. He was with Daniel Bryan for a time alongside the Wyatt family, and obviously Bo as well. He's family. He can say, if given the opportunity, I believe he could do a great dark storyline with his brother. If this means that they get their jobs back and they get to participate in this story, that's awesome. If they were going to be in a Wyatt family, that'd be great. You know, the new Wyatt family, Bo Dallas, Eric Rowan, whoever. But I wouldn't want to see that for a good few months yet.
That makes sense. That makes sense because it seems like he has to tell this solo story, this individual story first before we get to that point, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Deanna saying, okay, 6 different personalities that come to life. Eric saying it's all Bray, no faction. Bray doesn't need anyone by him, in my opinion. Let's see. Matthew saying, I think the Fiend comes back and reunites with Alexa at some point. Do you think we're going to see the Fiend again, Jodie?
Yeah.
You do?
Yes.
Okay. Dom?
I don't know.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jodie.
Yeah, I don't know when, but yes.
Yeah. I think it'd be a creative misstep. And I'm going to actually throw that one back to you, Jeff, in a second. Whether you think the Fiend's coming back, because I'd like to get your thoughts on that too. Because the Fiend obviously divided opinion so heavily. I think it would be a creative misstep not to bring the Fiend back at some point. Again, like a Cactus Jack, not something we see all the time. I think we've talked about this on the chat with the chat many times. But I think yes, the Fiend comes back. Sparingly, if at all. But I do believe the Fiend sold a ton of merchandise, right? The masks still sell. I mean, they've put Fiend merchandise back up under Bray. So, I think on the WWE Euro shop, certainly there's Fiend stuff up there. So yeah, I mean, it looks like all signs, but the Fiend's already been on the screen. It was mentioned by Uncle Howdy. So I think it would be a severe creative misstep if they didn't bring him back at some point for a period of time, but not to be, Bray shouldn't ever become the Fiend again. We've lived through that. It split opinion drastically, which was great for merch sales, but I don't know how much Bray, I don't know how much Bray would want to do the Fiend full time again. You know what I mean? From my understanding of how the gimmick was perceived. So I think yes, we'll see the Fiend again, but hopefully not full time.
Yeah. James saying, what if we've already seen the Fiend back on SmackDown? Bray's headbutt was very fiendish. I agree with that. Joe saying, don't think the Fiend is coming back in the near future. If he does, only for a match. He will win for sure. Maybe if he wrestles Roman, he can come back for revenge. Deanna saying, but not how we think. Let's see. Misfit Wrestling Podcast saying, bringing the Fiend back after the booking soured a lot of people isn't really a good idea. I'm going to agree with Dom and Jodie and say that I do think they bring him back, but I think it's going to be in a different way. I don't think it's going to necessarily be in the ring per se, which I think could be an interesting way to take the story. Is to do kind of maybe have him watch video of the Fiend and have some different things that the Fiend does from a psychological standpoint, because he's a part of his DNA, but not him. Have him do something like that features the Fiend, but maybe not have it where the Fiend is wrestling as much, or if he does, it's like a one-off or something like that. Something that something different. I think. How does that sound?
That does sound different, and thank you for your thoughts. Yeah, because I'd be up for that. I would be up for that. Although I'm gonna
like what Demon.
Yeah, kind of like the Demon. Yeah. I think I'm gonna throw something. I know we're coming, and I realize we're sort of running out of time, but I know we could go over for ages with this stuff. But I'm gonna say the less stuff on, like the less kind of cryptic promos we get as this storyline goes on, the better. And what I mean by that is I'm fine with Uncle Howdy being there. I'm fine with that. Right now, we're bringing Bray back in and stuff. But I think this should be about Bray being in the ring, bearing his soul, him and the fans. Do you know what I mean? And I want to see more of that. Like, that's how Mick Foley used to do stuff. He used to come out of a boiler room, and do dark, creepy promos hanging out with rats. And then he used to talk to the fans, tear his hair out, whatever it was. I mean, it was. I know he had a really interesting, some really interesting stuff where he was Dude Love, then he was Cactus Jack, then he was Mankind, and they were all talking to each other. That was great. But I think the more raw and honest and open we get Bray, certainly in the coming 6 months to a year, the better things are going to be for how his character communicates to people. We love Uncle Howdy, and we love the cryptic screens and everything, but I want to see, to me, different would be less of that, because I'm so used to see. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. I'm not against that. Yeah. I know it's a big part of Bray's character and has been that, stuff you can just tell on screen. Cinematic stuff is what I'm talking about. But I think that I would be really interested to see Bray manage without the cinematic stuff. And I know that he talked, I think there was an Instagram post, or somebody talked about him messaging him on Instagram saying that he would like to do something without all the creepy stuff, smoke and mirrors. And so that's what I'd like to see in the future. I know I've gone off on a tangent here, but I think The Fiend is representative of that cinematic world, which is wonderful and fantastic. But I want to see raw, open, honest Bray, more and more of that, personally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Let's see. Hanzo saying I would take him back all the time, but use sparingly. Talking about The Fiend. So, this was a great chat this evening. I hate that we're out of time.
Yeah.
It seems like it always goes by so fast. But Tom, final thoughts, and then we'll toss it over to Jodie to close us out.
I think I've said everything I want to say. I'm really excited that they've given us something different in LA Knight and the potential first feud with LA Knight. But my only hope, and I think everybody, we're all Bray fans here, but I think everybody in the chat, from what I've read, recognizes LA Knight's talent. So I think the key here is not to bury LA Knight and to have LA Knight look strong in defeat. And I think that that's something that Bray and LA Knight, they'll be cooking that up right now. They'll be planning all this stuff. I think Survivor Series and the weeks leading up to it, those 1 a.m. SmackDown streams are looking pretty exciting to me right now, and that's something that I've missed for, I certainly haven't wanted to do 1 a.m. SmackDown streams for a very long time, so it's an exciting time to be a Bray fan, and it's exciting time to be an LA Knight fan. And I think a lot of us are LA Knight fans, or Eli Drake from TNA, recognizing that talent. So putting these two together, nobody expected it, but it could be, it could be a holy monkey moment, couldn't it? Do you know what I mean? It could be next level. So let's see what happens.
Yeah. Jodie, floor is yours.
I'm just excited to see where all this goes. Little bit distracted thinking about Saturday. I'm really looking forward to seeing him and giving him a big old hug and talking to him for a little bit. So I will have a nice update for you guys next week.
There you go.
I'm excited to hear about it, man. Really excited to hear about it. Send my best from Yorkshire, won't you?
Yep, that's I've got to send everybody's best.
Indeed.
So I'll probably just do a collaborative. That everybody on the show and in our chat that regularly all said that they love you and excited you're back.
That's right. That's right. Well, speaking of being back, this show will be back next Monday. because we'll have a lot to talk about, I'm sure. And I can't wait to talk about it with you guys and all of you that have joined us. Hanzo, right before we get out of here, thank you, Hanzo, saying Bray has a knee brace on though, so maybe he can't wrestle yet, but you can tell he looks happy. He seems like he's happy to be back. We got him home.
Absolutely.
I'm going to ask him about that on Saturday.
About the knee brace?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, why not? Why not? Why not? Well,
like, hey, people have kind of noticed something.
Yeah.
Are you swerving everybody, or are you having trouble with your knee?
That's a good question.
Very good question.
Yep.
One that we're all excited to hear the answer of next week on the Insiders.
That's right. Next week on Abby's Window, we will be discussing the meet and greet, and I'm sure we'll get something this week that we'll be discussing at length next week on the episode, and I'm looking forward to it. We'll be back on here on Thursday for Impact Wrestling. We have a busy week this week on the channel, so come join us, and please drop a like on the video before you leave. Hit that subscribe button if you're new. Thank you for all for joining us this evening. We really appreciate it. It was a great conversation, and thank you for all of your questions and comments. But we will see you next time on Abby's Window.
So what do you say? You want to see my secret? La 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 la.